Hey, good day, folks. Welcome to another episode of Andrew's Life. I'm gonna make a little Q&A video. There's been a couple of questions that a couple of you have left in the comment section of my latest video of my door dashing in Fort Wayne, Indiana. One question is in relation to that, to door dashing in general. The other question is something a little different, but still a valid question in my opinion, valid enough to where I'm going to go ahead and put this on the Q&A video here. So right now I am coming out of Elyria, Ohio, my hometown, the city I grew up in, the city I was raised in, and I am here to visit my foster mother and her daughter. Her daughter's got Down syndrome. She was born with Down syndrome. And my foster mother, she's 91 years old. So who knows how long she's gonna live. I mean, so far she's doing good. She's healthy. She has all her faculties. She still is able to drive, and she's very sharp in the mind. She still gets around. She walks around. She goes to church twice a week. So she's doing very good. And quite frankly, I think the fact that she's as healthy as she is at 91 is a blessing. And she's had COVID twice, and she's recovered from that twice. And she's had other illnesses, some of which were close to claiming her life, but she was able to get into the proper medical facilities and receive the proper medical attention. So fortunately, she's still with us. And she's also been a big blessing in my life because, to be honest, if it wasn't for her, I would not be able to enjoy the life that I've been able to enjoy. It's a long story. Maybe I'll share it on another video. But yes, I'm here in Elyria to visit my foster mother and her daughter. Her daughter's got a bowling tournament today, and her daughter asked if I would watch her bowl, so I told her I would. So, I was gonna just visit her for the day and then go somewhere else. I was gonna drive over to Youngstown, but when she asked me to go to the bowling tournament, I decided, okay, well, I'll just go ahead and get a hotel here in Elyria, so I did. And that's where I'm currently at. Today it's only going to be 55 degrees here in Elyria. It's very overcast and dreary. It's supposed to, it was raining all this morning, and the rain is getting ready to clear up for the rest of the day. But they still say it's going to be a very dreary day. It's only going to be in the mid-50s. Tomorrow it's going to rain all day. So I'll be headed back to Indiana at that point. And, I'm kind of disappointed in the hotel here. I told the lady at the desk to give me a room that's not smoking last night, so she did. And, when I got into the room, at first it smelled okay, but then overnight I began to smell cigarette smoke. So I'm thinking that the room next to me is smoking, or two, the people next to me are not honoring the non-smoking policy. I don't know how they divide up their smoking and non-smoking. I don't know if it's one's non-smoking, one's smoking. I have no idea, but I don't smoke, so I'm very sensitive to cigarette smells. Now, I notice when I go into my bathroom, I tend to smell a little bit more cigarette smoke than I do in the rest of the hotel. So since we're talking about hotels, even though this is not a hotel video, I'm going to give y'all a brief tour of the hotel. So I'm going to turn y'all around. But nothing special here. Typically I would have slept in my van, but I did not drive my van up here. I drove my car. Everything out the door. I've paid about $100 for this room. Now, any more $100 is not a lot of money for a room, but for my cheap ass it is. But this is what you get for $100 in Elyria. I mean, nothing fancy, nothing special. The room in itself does appear to be clean. I did not see no signs of bed bugs, so I decided to stay. Here's my little sink. That's just a fan for the bathroom. See, ain't nothing special in here. Alright, folks, I'm going to turn you guys around. And by the way, for those of you that are just tuning into my channel, if you're interested in seeing videos of Elyria, Ohio, I do have those videos on this channel. I made those videos about a couple of years or so ago, so feel free to go back on this channel and you can find those videos. Okay, so anyhow, my first question is, this is from Pam. Yeah, this is from Pam. I live in Hammond, Indiana, and I dash my surrounding areas. Do you have to schedule your dashes? Well, Pam, and for anybody else who is interested in getting into dashing, the answer to that question is yes. I would say in the majority of the markets out here, especially in a market like Hammond, that's a smaller market, you will have to schedule your dashes in advance. Now, even in some of your markets that I would consider at least, I gotta stop this for a minute. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I just had an interruption. Anyhow, to answer that first question, yes, you do have to pre-schedule your dashes. In many markets, that's how you're going to have to do it. Now, in some of your larger markets, you may be able to get away with jumping on your app and just, hey, there's a dash open, so you can just press the dash now button, and then you can go ahead and perform your dashes. But I would say in most markets, yes, you do have to you do have to pre-schedule your dash. Now, I think in recent times, since times for many people have gotten hard financially, whether it be inflation or a mixture of inflation and people losing their jobs or getting their hours cut, whatever the case might be. And also, given that we're so close to the holiday season, I mean, I noticed in the markets that I've been dashing in, I used to be able to just show up and start dashing basically. But now in markets that I've been dashing in, like Fort Wayne, Montgomery, Alabama, and yeah, like markets like that, I'm finding myself showing up and there's not anything for me to do because all the slots have been taken. And I notice in Fort Wayne, for an example, I'm having to pre-schedule at least 2 or 3 days in advance in order to get any work. And I also noticed the same thing in Montgomery, Alabama, that it got to the point where I had to schedule 2 to 3 days in advance in order to get any work. Now, I will say, at least as it stands right now, if I were to go into Indianapolis and dash, I can pretty much show up and click the dash now button and I'm good to go. But even then, it depends on what part of Indianapolis I go into. Like, for an example, if I go into, let's say, the Broad Ripple area, sometimes I can show up and go right to work, but there's also some cases where I can't. I have to schedule ahead of time. Now, if I go into like some of the other parts of Indianapolis, like parts where it's a little busier, it's a little closer to downtown, parts that are a little closer into some of your hoods, I can pretty much show up and click the Dash Now button and go right to work. So I guess the long answer to that question is it also depends on where you're at. Now, I would say I don't know exactly what areas Hammond, Indiana covers. I'm going to assume that if you're in Hammond, you're going to probably be going to East Chicago and Gary, and maybe some of the close by suburban communities in that area. But that market is not the biggest market when it comes to dashing. At least I don't think it is. So hopefully that helped your hopefully I've answered your question. And then Pam goes on and she'll okay, her other part of the question is I find that to be ignoring. Well, I do too. Also, on your Dash app, does it tell you you where your delivery will be before accepting the delivery? No, it doesn't. And I think for all the markets across the board when it comes to the DoorDash app, if you get a delivery, the only thing they're going to tell you is, though obviously they're going to tell you where to go and pick up, and they will also tell you, and they will give you an estimate rather of how long it might take for you to all the way from the time that you pick up your customer's order to until you get to the customer's location. It will give you a rough estimate of how long it's going to take for you to get there, and of course, it will either give you you'll make $6.50 for that particular delivery, or you'll make an average of what it say $12.50 an hour. But that's about all the information that you're going to receive uh, off of DoorDash in concerns to that type of information. They're not going to give you, at least from my experience, they're not going to give you specific locations when you first accept the order. So I find that to be a little frustrating and in some cases misleading, but that unfortunately that's just how DoorDash rolls. Like I told you guys before, DoorDash, they know that there's more people that are jumping app on the app bandwagon for one reason or another, rather it be because you don't want to work a 9 to 5, you rather, call the shots and make your own schedule, or rather you're just looking for a supplementary, rather you're looking to supplement your income. I mean, many of these apps realize that there's going to be a plethora of us who are going to be willing to work these apps for one reason or another. So knowing what they know, there is no incentive for any of these apps to truly accommodate their driver. I mean, for the most part, these apps will pay their drivers crappy wages. And and a lot of times they will have you making deliveries in crappy neighborhoods. That unfortunately, that's just part of working DoorDash and probably many other gig apps. Alright, so hopefully I've answered Pam's question. I'm pretty sure more of you would have questions very similar to that, especially for those who haven't DoorDash yet, or you're new like Pam appears to be new at DoorDashing. So that's why I decided to put that in my Q&A video. So, alright Pam, thanks for watching my videos. Hopefully I've answered all your questions. Now, my other question I have on this Q&A, which is not in relation to DoorDash, it's a completely different question. This is from Trill. He's asking question: what's your overall perspective of Indiana? Well, my overall perspective of Indiana, for the most part, is good. Now, is Indiana perfect? No. Indiana, like many other places in the country, does have its downfalls, it does have its flaws. But me personally, I find Indiana to have more ups, way more ups than downs. Now, I've lived in Indiana since 2010. I came here to Indiana from Toledo, Ohio. Now, why do I like Indiana? Let me answer this man's question. I mean, on a more logical scale, to answer this man's question, I think Indiana's got wonderful. Let me see. Let me see how you worded his question here. Give me a second. I think Indiana's got wonderful perspectives because, for starters, you have cities like you have regions of Indiana like Northeast Indiana, i.e., the Fort Wayne area, as well as Mid Indiana, i.e., the greater Indianapolis area, which both regions of Indiana have relatively strong and solid economies. Now, Indianapolis has held pretty strong economically for some time. Like I would say for at least the last 20 to 30 years, Indianapolis economy has held pretty solid. Now, Fort Wayne's economy, I would say back 15, 20 years ago, they were they didn't appear to be much better than Toledo. But as I've told you on other videos, Fort Wayne has came a long way. I mean, Fort Wayne has done wonderful things. They continue to do wonderful things at this point, and I would say this has been going on for at least the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years. Fort Wayne's economy at this point is strong. It's solid. You've got plenty of employment opportunities. I mean, if y'all go back to my Fort Wayne videos, if y'all even watch my videos, my latest Fort Wayne video, door dashing, my last two videos, well, yeah, I got two videos where I dashed out of Fort Wayne. You'll see that even some of the areas that might be considered the hood, such as South Fort Wayne, at least in my opinion, after being in Montgomery and Birmingham, Alabama, and Mobile, Alabama, the south side of Fort Wayne is, in my opinion, is not scary at all. I'm not saying that stuff on that side of Fort Wayne doesn't happen. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying when I compare South Fort Wayne, which is the hood, which is considered the hood in Fort Wayne, compare that to the hoods of Mobile, Montgomery, and Birmingham, Alabama. South Fort Wayne is not that bad. And so yeah, there's plenty of employment opportunities to be had in those two regions of Indiana. Now, granted, if you go to other regions of Indiana, such as the Southwest, i.e., the Evansville area, that area, you know, it's okay. The economy there is not going to be as strong because it's not as big of an area, but I would say it's okay. Now, if you go to southern Indiana, going towards Louisville, that economy will be a little stronger. I mean, it's not going to be a Fort Wayne or Indianapolis, but it'll be okay. I mean, from what I've researched, the Louisville economy is kind of up and downish, but it's okay. Now, I would say if you go to Northwest Indiana, I'm going to be honest with you people. I am not super familiar with the economy in greater Chicago. I'm gonna say that economy again is probably not gonna be the strongest, but it will still be functionable. And then of course you got Lafayette, which is towards the Northwest Indiana region. Oh, sorry about that, folks. Which is towards Northwest Indiana region. Now, Lafayette, their economy is pretty solid. I mean, they got the Subaru plant, and they got some other businesses that are manufacturing in that region of Indiana. And plus, you're not super. And plus, you're only a little over an hour away from Indianapolis. So that part of Indiana is not bad. So I would say, due to the economic climate of Indiana, in my opinion, has got wonderful prospects for those that want to reside in Indiana. And another thing about Indiana is, for the last couple of years during tax time, for those that were full-time residents of Indiana and you filed your state taxes, Indiana actually gave all of you a refund, because for the last couple of tax years, the surplus in the state of Indiana, the state of Indiana had a surplus, which means basically they had more money than I guess what was required for Indiana to do their thing in terms of their running of the state. So they took some of that leftover money and they distributed refund checks for all the Indiana residents. So that's another reason why I would say Indiana's got wonderful prospects. Now, for this year, I don't know if they're going to do that again. We'll see. But even if they don't, my opinion about Indiana is not going to change. And that's also one of the big reasons why I decided to purchase a home in Indiana, because I believe in Indiana. I really do. Now, on a more personal level, Indiana's been very good to me. People in Indiana, for the most part, have been good to me. I never had trouble finding employment. I never had trouble meeting people. I never had trouble making friends. So, in fact, where I currently purchased my home at in Indiana, the people there are nice, they're friendly, they're helpful, they're neighborly, they're all that good stuff. And I cover a little bit of that on my video that I made when I gave you guys a tour of my new home in Indiana. So, hopefully I've answered your question, Bill. So, I don't know if you currently reside in Indiana and you're just asking my perspective, or if you're looking to move to Indiana, but whatever you're looking to do, hopefully I've answered your question. Now, I'm a little greedy, I'm a little selfish, I admit. Do I want everybody to flock to Indiana? Hell no. So, but at the same time, I understand there's other people out here that are good people, and maybe you're living somewhere more expensive and you're struggling, and you're looking for a better place to live a better life, to raise your family, or do whatever it is you gotta do better. And if you're looking for that, Indiana could be a wonderful, Indiana could be a wonderful place to reside. So hopefully I've helped all of you guys out who might have questions very similar to that question. And that is my Q&A video today. So everybody stay blessed, and I'll catch you on the next one.